So what do you need to know in Excel in 2021? That's what we're dealing with in this series. There's so many Excel techniques out there. So through the course of this series, I've tried to persuade you that there's some things you really do need to know, some things that might seem quite simple, some things you might have neglected even. And there's also some things that everybody's talking about. There's lots of clamor out there on platforms like LinkedIn that you probably don't actually need to know. So that's what we've been trying to do this week. We've done it by looking at the context. I've opened up my invoice record and I've told you about the context of 30 projects that I've worked on. From that, we've highlighted the 4 different applications of Excel. Yes, whenever you're using Excel, you're only doing one of 4 things. And then from those applications, we've identified a particular set of tools that are going to allow you to get so much done. And hopefully you found it's a bit simpler than you thought. And you know a lot of those tools already. I love these tools. I use these all the time to create value for my customers. Now, if you're watching on replay, just skip ahead because I'm going to say hello to the people live in the chat now. But if you're watching live, can you let me know, can you see me and can you hear me? And as always, let's say hello. Phil tuning in live from Amsterdam. Phil is an accountant in Amsterdam, and there's a few spreadsheets in that, Phil, I'm sure, and Phil's heating has just broken. So Phil, sending you, a virtual hug, only a platonic one, hoping to keep you warm with some good VBA chat here. Vinay is with us today. So Vinay, I've loved your support this week. Seriously, you've been with us every session, very proactive in the chat. Appreciate you. Abdul's tuning in as well. Good to see you, Abdul. And Abdul is saying he is missing the VBA. Yeah, I do get that kind of withdrawal symptom. If I have a couple of weeks without VBA, I definitely know about it. Steve was with Nikki is with us. Hi, Nikki. Yeah, it's raining here in the UK. It's not good. Very dark outside. Getting to winter. But you know what, Nikki? It's already almost the shortest day of the year. And then from then, we're going to be in spring sooner than we know it. Right. Steve is with us as well. Steve's got to go into a meeting, but he's going to watch on the replay. Yeah, remember, guys, these videos are staying online, so you can catch up with the replays as well. And Phil's saying, yeah, had a look at dsum yesterday. Dsum, if I could recommend one formula, it would be dsum, the power of a pivot table in a formula. Very underrated in my view. And thank you to Vinay and Ian for saying loud and clear, very rainy down in East Sussex. So even down south, it's raining today. So there we go. Right, let's get into our presentation. So we've talked about context, we've talked about applications, and today we're going to be speaking about our tools. So you can go back to the first video. I spoke about the companies I work with, public, private sector, multinationals, one-person companies, and I tried to describe the kind of things they're trying to do with Excel. So this is an evidence-based study, and it may be a small data set, that's true, but at least it's based on evidence. It's not based on, what I like, or it's not based on a single project. It's based on a range of projects and kind of my general experience. So from the context, we got to the applications. And in the applications, we've got 4 main applications of Excel. So whenever you're using Excel, you're doing one of 4 things 99% of the time: data input, putting data into the spreadsheet, data analysis, trying to make sense of a data set. You're doing modeling. So you're creating a chain of calculations using formulae to get from input to an output, for example, in a budget planner, or you're doing automation using VBA. So where you're copy pasting information from one sheet to another, from one file to another, we can often automate that process, speed it up using VBA. So you're doing one of those 4 things when you're using Excel. So from there, if you can be aware of what you're doing, you can say, okay, what tools do I need for this job? Because the tools are different for each application. That's already a simplification for us, isn't it? If we know what we're doing, then we know we're using these tools. And those tools all together become our toolkit. And that's where we're going to get to today. I'm going to present all the tools on a single slide. And this, I'm giving it to you as your Excel 2021 toolkit. It's what I'll be using in 2021. Will you be using it too? Abdul says the video's clarity is superb. Thank you, Abdul. I've been investing this year in a whole new setup. I actually run it through a proper video camera now, as opposed to running it through a as opposed to running it through a webcam. And got some software called StreamYard as well, which allows it to all go through at 1080p, which is not too bad. Usual disclaimer, you might be surprised what I recommend. Yeah, I'm not recommending the latest tools necessarily, not recommending the power tools necessarily. Shouldn't we be using them? I'm not sure. You might be surprised what I recommend. It's only my approach. Yeah, you can do what you like at the end of the day. I care about your development. At the end of the day, it's up to you what you do. It's based on hundreds of completed projects. I'm very happy to share it, but it's up to you to forge your own path. Although you may want to do that as part of our Members Monday community that we're going to get to. So yesterday we spoke about data input. So you can go back to yesterday's video for data input. And yesterday we also spoke about data analysis, talked about things you need, things that might be helpful, and things that you probably don't need. We've got pivot tables and Power Query in there, a bit controversial. You can go back to yesterday's stream for a full justification. We've got 16 people watching and a few likes. Yeah, if you enjoyed the series, just give it a like. That helps YouTube push it out to more people. Really appreciate that. So the third application, the third or fourth applications is modeling. Modeling. Now, first, let's deal with what modeling is. Let's remind ourselves, whenever you're using formulae, usually anyway, you're doing some kind of modeling. I always give the example of a budget planner. You must have done this in Excel at some point, listing all of the expenses for, your personal expenditure for a month or maybe for a project, listing the expenses, listing the income. And we want to get a sense at the end of the day of like the overall balance or the overall profit. When you do that, you're building a simple model because you're inputting information. You have input cells, then you have process or calculation cells, which are formulae, which in that example would probably be some sum formulae. And then finally, you have output cells. So these cells, there's no other cells dependent on an output cell. It's the end of the calculation chain. It outputs the information that we're actually interested in. So this is the concept of a model. The budget planner is an easy idea. I develop a lot of models for trading, particularly sports trading. And a lot of my customers want to generate odds for sports matches. They do that with a load of calculations using formulae. That gives us the odds: input, process, output. Yeah, so the question is, what do we need in order to get our modeling jobs done in Excel in 2021? Let's start with the needed stuff. So basic arithmetic formulae, and hopefully you're confident with these, but if you're not, you're in the right place. We cover these on the channel, absolutely. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, of course. So just the basic arithmetic formulae in Excel. If you were putting together a budget planner, like I just described, these are the kind of formulae that you would use. Then I talk about my big 5 modeling formulae. Can you name them? If you're watching a replay, you must know my big 5 modeling formulae. So we've got the basic arithmetic formulae. Then we've got the if formula, the VLOOKUP formula, offset and match, or you can use index and match. So that's our group of 5 formulae that we're going to use for modeling. And you'll be surprised when most Excel models you can build just with that set of formulae, the arithmetic formulae and the other modeling formulae I've mentioned. You'll be surprised just how powerful they are when they're combined together. Also for modeling, helpful formatting is really essential, whatever application we're doing. Whether we're doing data input, we need a helpful formatting, very helpful with data analysis and indeed with automation. It's just something we really need. With models, for example, where are the input cells for this model? We don't want the user to be trying to overwrite formulae. So can we separate out those input cells, make sure the layout's right, and then format them in some kind of alternative way so that they're prominent and they stand out? So formatting is going to support the user using the spreadsheet. And things like output cells, one of my pet hates in spreadsheets, and you see this all the time, is the one piece of information you really, really, really want to know, the outputs, which might be a profit and loss figure, might be a balance or something, is right down at the end of the spreadsheet, right down at the bottom of the spreadsheet. I suggest you get that to the top of the spreadsheet and highlight it with some helpful coloring, or more likely with a bigger font. Differentiation in font size is something that a lot of people ignore in spreadsheets, having different font sizes. That's an example of how formatting can help. Also, formula building skills. I talk about two main things with formula building. Firstly, understanding the role of the dollar signs. Let me know in the chat. Do you know what the dollar signs do? So being able to understand a relative reference, a full absolute reference, which is with both the dollar signs, and then ideally partial absolute references as well. So if you have $1 sign just to the left of the column letter, what does that do? If you have $1 sign between the column letter and the number, just in there, what does that mean? They're both partial absolute references. And in layman's terms, the dollar signs are going to fix the reference. So if you have both the dollar signs in, wherever you copy paste that formula to, it's still going to refer back to that cell. We call that an absolute reference. Formula building skills. The other thing I look for in formula building is building formulae across sheets. Is that something you're confident doing? It's really difficult, isn't it? Building formulae across sheets. You have to click on the sheet and then edit the formula and then hit the comma and then click back. I know you've gotten a mess so many times. I have so many times building formulae across sheets. But that's the other part for me, formula building skills. Are you confident building formulae across sheets? So this is the stuff that I think is needed. And let me know. Let me know what you think about that. But Vinay is on the money here. Yeah, F4 key is an absolute reference. F4 on the Windows PC. What's the Mac shortcut for absolute reference? Just let us know in the chat. And Ian Reeve also on the money. Fixing the row and column, fixing the row, or just fixing the row, or just fixing the column. There we go. Phil also said, Phil found out yesterday that using pivot table with Power Query is not limited to the 1 million Excel row. Absolutely, yeah. Power Query is going to facilitate, larger data sets. If you're interested in that discussion, how big a data set do we need to be able to work with to do most Excel projects? I covered that in the first video, but when I went back through my previous projects, I looked at 30. I was quite surprised by a lot of people only working with small data sets. Yeah, 1,000 rows. Big companies, big budgets, only working with relatively small data sets. So yeah, have those tools available, but don't obsess about having the biggest, most powerful tool, because a lot of data issues, contrary to popular belief, are quite contained and you have quite manageable data sets. So Excel is the best tool to get the job done. Good. So with modeling, what's not needed? Well, I've put XLOOKUP here, and again, I'm being a little bit of a provocateur, the spreadsheet provocateur here, because lots of people out there talking about XLOOKUP, lots of YouTubers like me promoting XLOOKUP, and I'd get more views on my channel if I did things like promoting the latest thing that Microsoft has released. I only promote things on my channel that I use myself, that I've used dozens of times on projects that I know work in Excel. What I'm trying to get at is don't learn a formula just because it's come out. The truth is there's other ways to get the job done, and for your work to have impact, your spreadsheets are going to be used by other people. Yeah, and once your friends, your colleagues, even your family know that you're good at Excel, you're going to have jobs coming in, whether they're paid jobs, informal, formal. It doesn't matter. You're going to have requests for work. So then you've got to start thinking like a consultant, like I have to think about projects. Can the person who's going to use this file actually use it? Now, what do I mean by that? The old versions of Excel don't support XLOOKUP. Yeah, Excel 2016 will not support XLOOKUP. So you've got to be thinking about that when you're selecting your tools. And this series is all about having a set of tools that punches above its weight, that has maximum impact. So I'm saying I'd leave those out for the time being. The dynamic array stuff and XLOOKUP, probably leave those out, although we do have unique in our toolkit. We're going to see unique in there. That's one of the new formulae. I use unique personally to get the unique values in a data set. I haven't actually put it in a spreadsheet to hand over to a customer yet. But as always, don't obsess about the new stuff, obsess about the stuff that's going to get the job done. That's what I'm saying. And helpful other formulae there's kind of the next tier of support of formulae below the big 5 modeling formulae. COUNTIF is one of them. There's a few others, and you can kind of pick those up on the channel. So that's my take on, if you're doing modeling in Excel, the tools you're going to need and the tools you don't need in 2021. A big welcome to Henrik, who's tuning in, just saying hello. All Stuart says yes. F4 on the Mac as well for the absolute reference. And Phil says, yeah, a lot of the new formulas such as text join don't really add much. You know, this is my frustration, Phil. And I don't want to get on my, on my soapbox all the time. I'm actually a very positive and chilled out guy, but some things get on my nerves. And, if you're Microsoft, you've got a massive budget for promoting Excel. Yeah. And they spend that budget on, let's put some new formulae in that have marginal impact, realistically have marginal impact. And one of the reasons they have marginal impact is they're not available in the previous versions of Excel. If I was at Microsoft, I know it's very easy to answer it in this way and to look at it in this way. I'd spend a load of money on educating people to use Excel, educating people to use Excel properly, and not saying, if you learn XLOOKUP, that's the best thing you can do for your Excel practice. It's probably not the best thing you can do for your Excel practice. At best, it's going to be counterproductive. You learn to use it, great, excellent. And then you realize, well, in the real world, it kind of has limited impact at the moment. It's counterproductive at best. So that's what frustrates me, Phil. But I'm pretty sure everybody who's seen this, who's watching this, has heard me, talk about this. So I don't want to go on about it. DC, welcome, DC. Text join is cool, but not needed for most users. That said, I've used it several times. Yeah, I use the formulae myself, but the formulae that an advanced user like DC or myself, I'll put myself in that category, are going to use, that's different to what we should be recommending to the average Excel user, because we've got a lot more experience. We can be discerning and critical about the decisions. But someone new to Excel, they don't need all the new fancy stuff. They need the basic stuff. They need this toolkit. With that said, let's move on. So finally, if we're talking about automation, here we are. Yeah, if we're talking about automation, what are we going to need? And firstly, before that, again, what do we mean by automation? If you're getting into VBA, you're getting into automation. Now, I love automation, and I've got to be honest, and you can see this in the previous presentations, most of my projects contain an automation element. And if you were to ask me which of these 4 applications, data input, data analysis, modeling, and automation, which one do clients love most? It's automation, definitely. If you want a customer, you want to get that wow factor. The customer's going, whoa, that's magic. How did you do that? That's all automation. That's all VBA. That doesn't mean it's the only thing you should focus on. And another thing I hope you've picked up this week is a lot of applications of Excel, they don't involve automation at all. They don't need automation. Yeah. So it shouldn't necessarily be the first thing you learn. But if you want to really step up your Excel, if you want to move towards professional level, definitely if you want to do any freelancing or work for other people, you do need to know some automation. So what is it? Basic VBA skills. And I'll talk about 5 things in VBA. Being able to work with ranges, range A1.value equals 4, that kind of syntax. Being able to work with variables, understanding what a variable is. A variable is just a place to store information. Understanding different variable types. Well, what variables have we got? Integer variable is usually the one people start with. When would you use a long variable, a string variable, a Boolean variable, and then the object variables as well, such as range. And then conditional statements. So if statements in Excel VBA, if something is happening, do this. If it's not happening, then do that. There we're looking at simple 1-line if statements, if, else, end if, and select case. Yeah, they're the 3 conditional techniques I use. You can cover everything with that. Loops as well. So for next loop is my recommended starting points for loops. For next loop, for each object in a collection, and then a do until loop as well. And I'm going through the options here. You don't need all these options. Yeah. If you can do an if, else, end if statement, you're going to be okay for conditional statements. If you can do a for next loop, you're going to be okay for loops as well, because you can use for next to get most 99% of things done with loops. With position control, we're talking about, how well can you control position on the spreadsheet? Excel gives us a grid, more precisely, a set of grids in a workbook. How well can you navigate that grid? This is position control. Here we're thinking about methods such as offset. I love offsets. Offset allows us to do things like data transfer, for example, to put the first piece of data there, next piece of data there, to work down some rows. We can combine a loop with offset to do that. And techniques like dot cells. Dot cells, I've been getting into dot cells in the past few years, also a good position control technique. But again, you don't need to know it all, but if you've got most of those covered, then you're going to be well placed to do automation tasks and for your Excel VBA work to have impact, particularly for Excel VBA, a resilient mindset. More so than formulae, more so than data input or data analysis. Excel VBA is the most difficult to learn. That's because it's difficult to understand why it's gone wrong. With a formula, we have the visual clues. We have quite a lot of guidance when formula building from Excel. We get the prompts. We feel quite supported when building a formula. So it's easier to get through it and to get it done. With VBA, the error messages are marginally helpful at best in VBA. And sometimes they're just totally misleading, the error messages. So you need resilience. And you've seen me talk about this on the channel before. I've got a video, which is what's the number one thing you need to succeed with Excel VBA. It's resilience. So if you're really going to get good with automation tasks, you need to know these 5 things. And to get there, you're going to need a resilient mindset. What's not needed for automation? Well, once again, I want you to guard against technique obsession. Just because it exists, I've got to know it. That's the mindset I want you to guard against. Now, don't get me wrong, I love learning. And there's many videos on the channel with quite obscure stuff, the chess series being one. But rather than do that, I want you to focus on what you need to get the job done. There's lots of stuff in VBA that I've never touched, like class modules, for example, and DC probably knows something about class modules, and others in the chat. I've never touched class modules. Am I missing out? Perhaps I am, but I've found I'm able to get my work done, very comfortably and with a lot of power and efficiently, robustly, flexibly, without ever having to use class modules. And there's other things in VBA. There's very elaborate coding techniques that I just don't use. I always look at my code. I think it looks kind of rudimentary, very simple. And when I go online, when I've got a problem, I look at some of the code online. I'm like, whoa, is that what some people's VBA looks like? But I don't think I want my code to look like that, because it looks more sophisticated. It looks more complicated. I want you to have the confidence in the skills you're learning. I can guide you. This is the toolkit that you need. Seriously, we're going to be good to go if you can focus on these things. Things that are helpful, yes, and some selected advanced VBA skills. So application.worksheet function, to be able to access all of the worksheet functions from VBA, particularly countif, match, VLOOKUP. These are some of the worksheet functions that I use. So could be helpful, not necessary. And then I've got to put it in here, a community for support, help, and encouragement. And this is as good a time as any to mention that tomorrow is our birthday party for Members Monday. Members Monday, totally unique as far as I can see. It's an Excel VBA learning community. It's based around a live stream every Monday. The clue is in the name, with me. So you get a weekly appointment with me. You get access to all of the previous live streams, access to a content navigator to help you navigate the previous live streams, access to a private Facebook page where you can go put your problems on there, get answers to your Excel questions. This is Members Monday. There's details on the website, but as you can see, the ticker at the bottom of the screen here, we're doing a relaunch party, Members Monday, first birthday, tomorrow tomorrow, 7 o'clock UK time, we're going to have some members coming on. You can meet the members. Talking about Members Monday, we're going to have some fun competitions. I'm going to have a drink, and I'll have a couple of drinks maybe. So yeah, join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Learn more about Members Monday. We focus on this. If this toolkit makes sense to you, then I could be your man, and I will guide you through it in 2021 if you want to move towards professional level, whatever you want to do. So let's pick up some comments quickly. How are we doing for time here? We'll be going 25 minutes. Okay. Yeah, good point from Phil here. I mostly use variant as a data type. Others can chime in here, but I advise you don't use variant, Phil, actually. So variant, it works, but it doesn't work very efficiently. You're asking Excel to actually choose the most appropriate variable type behind the scenes. That's not a very efficient use of Excel's time and Excel's memory. So although I've never seen a material difference from using variant data types, I understand that it's better to be explicit, option explicit, be explicit about the variable types. So what's going on here? There's a conversation about Boolean came from it's a potato tomato thing to me, but pet peeve when I hear it. You know what, DC? I've only heard one person say it, which was my lecturer at university who pronounced it Boolean, I think. But it might be Boolean. Or how should it be pronounced? I'm not sure. I'm not precious about that type of thing. Okay, and DC, yeah, DC's onto it here. DC is saying a variant is a memory hog. It just keeps things efficient. And some people say it doesn't matter so much memory. It's funny with memory and spreadsheet efficiency. It's like it's fine until it's not fine, and then it's a complete disaster. And I think Nikki's with us today, and we were talking about spreadsheet efficiency. It's not like your spreadsheet gets gradually less efficient in a linear way. It's like it's fine. You're a little bit conscious of it, and then bang, the efficiency just totally goes, and the spreadsheet is no longer, the Excel file is no longer usable. So my advice is anything you can do to keep it lean, keep it efficient, including being explicit about variable types. I highly recommend that, because going back through a spreadsheet, trying to disentangle everything and identify the source of inefficiency, you don't want to be in that situation. That's one for the professionals. So try to keep it lean. A stitch in time saves 9, as always. Henrik says, would you say you handled more than 50% of VBA, Chris? So I think, Henrik, I think you mean, do I know 50% of all existing VBA techniques? I don't know, Henrik, because it's a case of the map is not the territory. You know, my map around VBA, which I just introduced you to, I don't really know what I'm missing out on. You know, you might have to ask DC or somebody else who's like a generally more experienced computer programmer than me. I know there's things I don't use. There's definitely features in VBA that I just don't use. I'm always learning new stuff. That's one reason why I love Members Monday, because the members are like, why don't you use this? Have you tried that? And I've integrated some new things into my practice. What I can tell you, Henrik, is the skill set I'm presenting today gets the job done, means happy users, happy customers. Phil's going to bring some wine tomorrow. Good stuff. I think I'm going to be on the wine, Phil, as well. Good. So let me know the burning debate. How do we pronounce this? Boolean. DC is saying. Vinay, it should just be Boolean. Okay. Who knows? Let me know. Where do you stand on this one? So let's continue. Just what does this all mean? So I've been talking all week, you know, thanks so much for hanging out. Seriously, 22 people online at the moment, and hit like if you're getting value, guys. I really appreciate that. Thanks for hanging out. But, you know, what does it all mean? What does it all mean to you? And hopefully you've had a few takeaways already. I'm going to just reorder the slides here. So we've explored the context of Excel work, identified 4 applications, and listed the tools. So 3 things: context, applications, tools required for each. What does this mean to you? So the main takeaways here: Excel is predictable. So the same tools are used repeatedly. What do I mean by Excel work is predictable? When somebody phones up, and I get phone calls every week from just kind of broad Excel questions, broad Excel questions to specific inquiries to people saying, we want to work with you. I like those phone calls. Excel work is predictable. I know, broadly speaking, or not straight away, but fairly soon in a conversation where we're talking about what people are trying to do, I can understand what they're trying to do. How do I know that? Well, a lot of it's to do with experience, but it's to do with the concepts that we've been talking about this week. When somebody's talking, I'm thinking, okay, are they looking for automation? If they're saying, we've got a task that takes ages, bang, that means automation. If they're saying, we've got too much data, we can't make sense of it, then they're trying to do some data analysis probably. If they're saying the quality of our data is not good, then they need some kind of data input mechanism. And over the years, I've found it's really quite predictable. You know, very soon in a conversation, I can kind of predict what the customer wants and I can anticipate that. Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm not advocating you just solving their problem on the spot and being patronizing and saying, yeah, all you need is this. Yeah. There's too many computer programmers out there doing that already. Keep it back. Yeah. Keep it back. Let them talk. Listen some more. And then finally suggest it as a possible route forward. Yeah. Never solve the problem. People don't want problems solved. They want support on their journey, whatever improvement they're trying to make. But broadly speaking, Excel work is data input, data analysis, modeling, or automation, some kind of combination of them. It's predictable. That means the same tools are repeated. So you've seen the toolkit, and I'm going to go through the toolkit, a summary in a second, but you might be closer than you think to a really useful toolkit. You know, we've talked about some advanced stuff, VBA and things like that, but most of the stuff I've mentioned this week, and this is one reason, you know, I like this stuff, is it's fairly simple stuff. You know, I spent 20 minutes talking about cell validation. Well, cell validation is very easy. You know, you just go to data validation, then you look through all the options. Why don't more people use it then? Yeah, if cell validation is easy, why is the data quality in spreadsheets generally quite low? So a lot of the stuff we've looked at, and the same goes for the formulae, it's like reasonably basic stuff. So I want you to look at what you already know in Excel, and I'm going to present the whole toolkit to you on one slide in a second, and just tick it off. You might find that you know more than you think. You might find that you're closer than you think to a really useful toolkit, a professional level toolkit. And that doesn't mean that you have to know even pivot tables and power this and the new formulae and everything. Just knowing this stuff, it will allow you to do jobs, your own work for other people in a professional manner. And then, yeah, focus on the tools you need to get the job done, not on what others tell you. A lot of this is about confidence. You know, I've been thinking a lot this year about how I market the company. I've been reading a lot of branding stuff and theory and everything. What I'm selling you is confidence. Yeah, that's what it actually comes down to. Confidence with Excel, confidence with data. And the reason that people obsess about stuff they don't need is because they're not confident in the toolkit that they have. I am confident in the toolkit that I have because I've done hundreds of projects with it. Yeah. So I'm saying, try this toolkit, build confidence with this toolkit, and you're going to be surprised how much impact it's going to have on whatever you're trying to do in Excel and whatever you're trying to do for other people in Excel. It's your journey. Commit to it, own it, enjoy it. I'm with you. I am with you all the way. And once again, I really appreciate everybody hanging out this week. 7 o'clock tomorrow, we will be doing our launch party. So let me know, guys, are there any, I tried to capture it all in this phrase, be a value creator, not a technique collector. You may have seen me say this before. And I'd love to have you in our Members Monday learning community in 2021. So let me know, guys, any final questions? I can see a few questions coming in the chat. I will deal with those in a second after I do a quick summary of the toolkit. I've put everything on one slide here. Yeah, so I'll leave this video online. Just go to the end of this video and you can see the summary toolkit here. So what do we got? Formulae, VBA, and other stuff. So we've got 3 categories. What formulae do you need to know? What we spoke about today, the basic arithmetic formulae, the formula building skills. which is absolute references and formula building across sheets. Our data analysis formulae, dsum. Phil said he's already loving dsum. I think it was Phil. Also things like countifs, average ifs, sum ifs, count a few others as well. We have a series called Data Analysis Formulae for Beginners, which is 7 videos, goes through exactly those formulae. The frequency formula is the best way to quickly understand a continuous numerical data set. I gave an example yesterday or the day before, I believe. Nobody's using frequency out there. It's so powerful. Big 5 modeling formula I spoke about today. Indirect and offset we use to get dynamic function. So where the user wants to look at only part of the data set, they've got a drop down menu, select a value, and bang, everything updates in the background. Indirect and offset, there are some downsides to using these because they're volatile formulae, so they can hog a lot of memory. But I think overall, they're well worth integrating. And the unique formula, yep, down at the bottom, I've got one of the new formulae in there. So these are the formulae, VBA. So the basic VBA skills we covered today. How do you get started with these? Go to our Excel VBA for Beginners series. We've got 4 videos, 4 5-minute videos to get you started. Then after that, we've got Excel VBA for Beginners 30/4/30, which we filmed this year, 30 days live. So if you've got 30 days, you know, Christmas coming up, you can do 30 minutes a day for 30 days. You can build a really solid foundation in VBA. And 2 specific applications that I find really useful, VBA for data transfer. So for example, you've got an input sheet, someone clicks a button, you want to kick all that data into a data set somewhere else in the workbook. Very common application of VBA. And VBA for buttons for data input. So data transfer, I've got a video series called Use VBA to Move Data Around a File, How I Actually Do It. 3 video series. It's about how I actually do it. You're going to love that. So formally, VBA. Other stuff, cell validation. Already mentioned it. Super basic. Everyone overlooks it. You and your customers are going to love it. Helpful formatting. Mentioned it already in this video. Being able to protect cells so the user can tab through some cells. Really useful for data input, and a lot of spreadsheets, they're just about data input. Conditional formatting, column chart, and the all-important resilient mindset. So this is it, guys. This is what we've been working towards this week, looking at context, applications, and our toolkit. So let me know what you think about that. I'll work through some questions now. Okay, and Vinay is saying, can we enforce data validation in a cell if we are entering via some sort of form? So Vinay, my recommended approach is actually not to use a form. And if you go back to the second video in the series or the first one, I speak about how I don't use user forms anymore. I just create something that looks like a form in the worksheet. If you do that, you can use the cell validation to make sure that the right kind of values are going in. If you are using a user form, validation is more difficult, but you can do it with VBA. Yeah, you have to have some VBA sitting behind the user form, for example, to check that a number is in, to check that there's an entry in. That's why I'm saying user forms, they look cool, but they involve a lot of risk, a lot of code. There's display issues with user forms as well. So I would simplify, do it all in a spreadsheet. Okay, any other questions here? Henrik's speaking to Nikki here. Do you use VBA too? I think Nikki is getting into VBA. Nikki is one of our members. And Nikki's saying here, yeah, working towards using it to speed up my job. Good. Okay, yeah, can't find any further questions, guys. So remember, final reminder about tomorrow. I'd absolutely love to see you there. We'll be starting about 7 o'clock UK time, and we're going to have some of our members on. We're going to talk about how our membership community can help you in 2021. We're going to have some fun games, some silly giveaways. Yeah, it's just going to be a good time. Okay, thanks for hanging out, guys. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. And if you're watching on replay, thanks for watching this series. I'll see you in another video on the channel.